Hello and welcome to the Tech and Sports Podcast. Tech and Sports is a show about how technology is revolutionizing all of the major sports as well as health and fitness. You can find it on your podcast service of choice. My name is Alex Radu and I'm here with the extraordinary Mandy Kovacs.
What up?
This week we round up some of the technology news coming from the Olympics before the opening ceremony on February 9th, plus all of the biggest sports news. But before we get to that, we would really appreciate it if you would review and rate the Tech and Sports Podcast on iTunes and Google Play or wherever else you get your podcasts from. It really does help us grow the show, and we really appreciate all the support so far. And with that, sit back and relax, because the Tech and Sports crew is entering the game. All right, Mandy, the news.
All right, so first up is a new multi-year partnership between the NFL and Sleep Number, a sleep innovation, tracking, and technology company that will now be the official sleep and wellness partner of the league. And so because of this partnership, every player in the league will be offered a fully adjustable Sleep Number 360 smart bed that comes with advanced biometric sleep tracking, Sleep IQ technology. So it's essentially a Fitbit health tracking type of thing, except it's not a wearable. You just sleep in the bed like normal, and its app coaches users and gives insight into players' sleep habits and behaviors, and even gives users their optimal number of sleeping hours. So Sleep Number will be working with players, teams, and trainers to integrate the technology and help them better understand how sleep impacts their on-field performances and even develop better sleep regimens. And so apparently Sleep Number has been working with the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys already for a couple years. So this partnership basically expands their tech across the entire league. And for anyone interested in sleeping like a pro football player, I might break your heart right now because the cheapest smart bed from Sleep Number I found online is more than $2,500 for a queen size. Well, so a little unaffordable for us.
What was do you see the price for a king?
Nope, but I mean, some of the queens went up to about 5,000 US.
Oh.
So I'm going to assume more than that.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Which you see, I don't know if any Minnesota Vikings or Dallas Cowboys fit in a queen-sized bed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could get extra long. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, what I really like about this is because I've always been fascinated about the Fitbit sleep technology. Mm-hmm. And I know you sleep with your Fitbit on.
Yes.
Or your Ionic. So I was never able to do that, so the fact that you'd be able to take that off and still get all that'd be cool. That's just fun.
Yeah.
See your sleep stats.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the only reason I wear my Fitbit right now, is so I can track my sleep and see how miserable I am and why I am that miserable.
Fair enough.
Right?
Fair.
All right, and some more partnership news from the NFL, this time with HP for innovative new footwear. HP will be providing its FitStation technology that uses 3D scanning to give players personalized cleat recommendations. So the dual hardware and software platform captures up to 500 measurements per second and 3D scans for foot length, width, pressure measurements, arch height, and dynamic gait analysis, thanks to 9 different cameras to create a unique individual digital profile. And so then it uses an algorithm to match a player's digital profile with already scanned 3D images of Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour football cleats for the best possible shoe for individual players. And so all 32 NFL teams are on board with this, and the tech will be fully operational in every equipment room starting next season. That's
really cool. All the shoe technology.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And the fact that there's so many sensors, but like it doesn't actually, or measurements, but it doesn't actually like affect what the shoe is and what's going on. That's really cool.
And I would like to see this as a more consumer product too, because I've always found, like, for example, I just bought hockey skates for the first time, and I found that Nikes generally fit smaller, and those were better for me than, let's say, some of the Adidas ones that I were trying on, or the Under Armour ones. So I feel like that would be a really cool thing to have an actual digital profile of a shoe, and then go to the store and buy ones that fit better.
You see, that's cool. I didn't even know that Nike skates fit smaller.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And sticking with football for one more quick story, the Denver Broncos star linebacker Von Miller has created a new 8-episode comedy variety show that will stream live on Facebook Watch every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. The show, called Von Miller Studio 58, is based in his home's man cave basement and features Miller, obviously, as well as some of his teammates and his 3 brothers. So Miller is a very outspoken and funny guy, so I do expect this to do well, especially because it involves live interactions with the fans that are watching it on Facebook Watch.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I also love how Von Miller is ripping off Kevin Garnett's Area 21 on ESPN.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love when all these players retire and continue to show their personality, and because it gets fans who maybe they don't have like their favorite player in the NFL anymore, but they can still be connected to the sport because their favorite player is still doing things.
And he's like obviously a fan favorite. And I watched the demo video for this, and I'm pretty sure he goes to like a zoo and potentially helps give birth to an elephant. I'm not 100% sure based on like the 3-second clip that I saw, but yeah.
That's the type of entertainment I'm willing to pay for, not just watch for free.
I know. It looked really fun.
Yeah.
All right, and then Facebook Watch news again. ESPN has debuted a new program, or I guess it was last week, called First Take, Your Take. So viewers that watch ESPN's daily show First Take, it's a sports talk show every day, and have some thoughts on what some of the hosts are saying, they can actually record their own take on Facebook, and the show will select a few to be packaged and aired on the Wednesday show, and then a lone viewer is chosen to debate directly with one of the hosts of First Take on Fridays. So ESPN is doing this to increase its engagement with fans and make the show a little bit more fun. And while we're recording this before the first episode actually happens, I'm expecting it, again, to do pretty well.
Yeah, what I really like is it's forcing traditional media right now to absorb things from like things like YouTube. This is totally a YouTube concept of fans interacting with YouTubers and being able to do that. And now ESPN's taking it for their show. And it works because, number one, it gives that fan interaction. And number two, everyone else is going to be able to see Stephen A. Smith just tear apart some random fan on live TV.
Right? Because, I mean, everyone thinks they're a sports expert, right? Like, you watch one hockey game and all of a sudden you're the coach. So I feel like this will be cool to actually see people potentially get ripped apart by actual experts.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. It's cool to see ESPN actually trying new things.
Yeah.
Which, you know, don't normally expect.
No, that's for sure. All right, and our last story of the day looks at how Apple has been dominating the wearables market thanks to strong sales of the Apple Watch recently. So CEO Tim Cook said in the company's latest earnings call on February 2nd that sales of the third edition of its smartwatch have doubled over last year's sales of the Apple Watch 2 and reached 50% growth in both revenue and units sold for the fourth consecutive quarter, which means that they likely sold somewhere between 9 and 10 million units in December. So while a lot of people were concerned with how slow the Apple Watch was to take off with consumers, according to analysts in the market, Apple now owns approximately 75% of the wearables market, which does include more than just smartwatches. Apple keeps its watch in the other category, which right now has sales more than 5 times greater than Google's cloud business. It's larger than Microsoft Azure's public cloud and even bigger than Amazon Web Services, which reached $5.11 billion in revenue this past quarter. So I really think this just represents not only how big Apple will continue to be, but also how big the wearables market will be going forward.
It's stories like this that take me back to my predictions for 2017 when I said wearables were going to be really, really big.
You're right.
And I was like half right. 2018 is going to be the year where they're huge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I wasn't right until, like, I kept feeling wrong until the Apple Watch Series 3 came out. And I was like, okay.
Well, once you add cellular connectivity to watches, I mean, that's it. That's the game.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is people want wearables so that they can go on a run and do it, but they don't want to have to bring their phone. Like, especially, like, I have, like, the Pixel 2 XL. I can't carry that while I'm running.
I mean, it's XL for a reason.
Yeah, like, that thing is, like, if it's in my pocket, it's just like a brick.
It's true.
So, but if you have a smartwatch, that totally solves that problem, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. And then so that was the news for today, but we wanted to do a special segment on some of the Super Bowl tech. Because while this episode is dropping after the big game officially airs, we know how many of our listeners actually watched it this past weekend, so we're going to give you a quick recap of some of the coolest technology to be used in or around the game. So broadcaster NBC provided more than 200 hours of Super Bowl coverage using 106 cameras, which includes 2 Skycams, 7 4K HD cameras, and 20 embedded in the end zone pylons, as well as total live streaming capabilities on its website and app. Intel also used its TrueView technology to enable 3D replays, and Amazon Alexa has been pretty clear in declaring that she's an Eagles fan if you ask her who she's rooting for. Twitter introduced its inaugural Brand Bowl award that's given out based on fan engagement, and the Patriots actually built their own studio inside the Mall of America in Minneapolis as a 24-hour video streaming hub of all things pets, because that's what we all need more of.
We need more pets.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone says that every single year. That's the one undeniable fact about the NFL is that we need more Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel so deprived right now. Okay, so next, the 10-lane I-35 St. Anthony Falls Bridge in Minneapolis, which is less than a mile from the actual stadium, is lit up based on what was happening during the game. So, for example, it turned bright red when a team entered the red zone, and it lit up with their respective team's colors after they scored. And as we've mentioned before, too, AT&T officially tested out 5G networks at the game, which is one of the first pilot projects in North America.
That's all of this is so cool. Mm-hmm. It's awesome that we get to just like talk about, hey, this is all of the cool tech stuff that they took seriously with the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're doing well.
And even, you know what, the bridge idea stands out to me because, and I'm sure it hurts Minnesota fans even more.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool concept of what people can do with technology and how important sports are in technology. Mm-hmm. Like sports, a lot of people in the world love sports. Undeniable fact. This helps.
And that could be used in so many different cities, too, right? Like, we're in Toronto, so we could have the CN Tower lit up for something very similar to that, right?
Seattle, the Space Needle, Empire State Building, Golden Gate Bridge.
Yep. We could keep naming off these landmarks, but we'll leave you to do that yourself. And so I'm not even done. So there are two companies called Ampsy and Blue Media. They teamed up to track emotional moments of the Super Bowl based on social media reactions so that marketers could use the information for better content. And before the game, ticket reselling website StubHub was using augmented reality to help fans get an immersive visual look at the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis before any of the action even began. So iPhone and iPad users were able to point their cameras at a flat surface and project a 3D rendering of the stadium when they were using the StubHub app so they could see what all the different vantage points looked at based on different points in the stadium. They could also look around at a map of the surrounding area to see locations of parking lots, public transportation, ticket pickup areas, pre-party areas, and more. And then, so arguably my favorite thing to come out of the Super Bowl is Mercedes-Benz's new giveaway, which requires people to keep their finger on a smartphone screen for as long as they can, and the last person to move their finger away wins a car. So during the Super Bowl, the Mercedes app has a virtual car driving around the stadium, and fans need to use all of their patience and stamina to win it by keeping at least one finger touching the car on their screen at all times throughout the game. So it started at kickoff time, and it was available to all U.S. residents 18 or older. And the car manufacturer even sent out push notifications on how people could keep their phones charged during this, how they could deal with bathroom breaks, and obviously not to play if they're going to be driving or doing potentially dangerous things throughout the tournament. So according to the rules, participants would be disqualified if their fingers moved away from the car, if they used someone else's finger, or if they used just like a random object instead of their own finger. So players who registered and shared that they were playing the game on Twitter, they got a one-time 5-minute timeout during the game where they could actually let go of the car with their finger, and they could go do whatever they want for a whole 5 minutes. And there's a counter at the corner of the screen that shows how many participants are left. And apparently it gets harder because the app kept adding more distractions as the game went on. So, I mean, we are recording this before the game is done, so we don't know who won this, but if there is a tie, Mercedes said that they would just call a game and have a random draw with whoever's left as the winner.
So this is the greatest idea that's ever
Absolutely.
been made.
I had to include this because, like, I want to participate. We're in Canada, so we can't do it, and it really sucks. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'd be good at this.
This is not hyperbole. This is the greatest idea that's ever been made.
Imagine you win a Mercedes by just keeping your finger on your smart screen for like 4 hours.
Think of also the possibilities around this type of app.
Yeah.
Because you just sell ads that pop up every 30 seconds and people can't leave them because that's the game.
That's the whole point of it, yeah. It's amazing.
It's so brilliant. It's actually fun because it's a real car you're winning for holding a button. Mm-hmm. It's that same concept of like with HQ trivia, which is like such a simple, easy thing for people to do. Everyone should be doing this at every major sporting event. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just smaller things during games, everyone should. This is a superb idea.
And I love that you can win a 5-minute bathroom break. Yeah. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that there's like different ways because it's like, okay, I really got to use the bathroom. I need to put my phone down.
Yeah, like without the game even beginning right now, like I do think Mercedes has just won.
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of the marketing side of things.
100%. Mercedes is the winner. I guess, sorry, Eagles and Pats.
Yeah, sorry, that's it. It's over. Cancel the game.
All right, so next up, we have a kind of newish segment where we're just going to be talking about the new apps and devices that are coming out. So first up is continuing with the Super Bowl. for a second, a new virtual reality app which launched that allows fans to participate in augmented reality games from their seats, with the app enabling virtual characters, targets, and objects to appear on the actual field of US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The 2 games available now include hitting targets by flicking the football or passing to receivers around the field. The AR app adjusts to your real-life vantage point in the stadium, and players can compete at the same time, each seeing it from their own perspective, on either side of the same team or different teams, etc. Results are recorded and put on a leaderboard that everyone can see, and this is basically a way to keep fans attending the big event entertained during commercial breaks or halftime. It debuted at the Super Bowl, but its official rollout will come during the upcoming baseball season. Mm-hmm. We see this at the ACC here in Toronto during Raptors games all the time, every game now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's first cool for the Raptors.
Yeah, go Raps.
But I think this is a really cool way. I mean, the Super Bowl doesn't feel like the best testing ground for this, just because that in itself is such a big event. I don't know how many people are bored at the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, that's why when I saw that this is more of a baseball type of ad, like, that makes sense. Yeah. There are so many down times during a baseball game, and there are so many commercial timeouts that it makes sense, right? Keep people in their seats, then you don't have to worry about them, just roaming the concourse or anything. Yeah, great idea. I love it. I would use it too.
Yeah, it's definitely during baseball games. It's like you look at games like maybe hockey, probably not the great, but even if it's just like here, try and flick a puck into a net or something. I feel like these are all, AR is going to be this huge thing for sports. We've seen it last year. We've seen it already this year. I'm sure every few weeks we're going to be talking about new AR apps, if not every week. All right, so next is a company based out of the Czech Republic called Sensorina. They're a VR training company, and so the idea here is we've always talked about how professional athletes are using VR for training, but what about child athletes, those in elementary school and high school, like growing? It's not very accessible to them because, according to Sensorina, current professional teams may be paying upwards of $100,000 for VR training platforms. So what they want to do is create a platform that will cost anywhere between $200 to $2,000 per month, depending on the number of users, range of modules, and the variety of drills. Granted, this price also does not include the actual VR set, the computer to power it, etc. But Sensorina wants to tackle the 45 million school-aged children in the U.S. that play organized sports, and it will include programs from a variety of sports like hockey, basketball, football, baseball, and more. And what excites me about the possibilities with this is VR is clearly a route that many pro athletes are taking. So imagine how developed kids in high school can get if they then add this to their routine. And a lot of them are playing video games. A lot of them are interested in this sort of thing. Cool way to get people engaged in different things if it becomes a little more affordable.
Yeah, no, I could see this taking off really well in the U.S. Because, I feel like the sports culture down there is a little bit more intense, right? Like, you have how big college football and college basketball is, and that doesn't even start there. That obviously starts in high school. That obviously starts in elementary school. There are a whole bunch of, different specialized schools, specifically in sports, in any state, right? And we have some of those in Canada, too, of course. So I think for those types of schools is where this is really going to work, I can't really say the average public school would maybe invest in this, but the specialized elementary school and high schools that are prepping kids, obviously, for the big leagues.
Yeah, I went to a school at one point in Atlanta that had a stadium bigger than the school. Yeah. And that was a high school. So this is totally the type of thing that I think works. And the big number there, 45 million children. That's a huge market that's largely untapped in this type of way. So good on them for giving it a go. It'll definitely be exciting to see what happens. So next up, we've talked about digital coaches for when you're working out at the gym, etc. But what about when you're skiing? So Carve is a new digital ski coach that talks directly in your ear by putting an insole into your boot that has sensors on both ends of your feet. So it has 9-axis 3D motion with an accelerometer, gyroscope, magnet meter, 98 pressure sensors, 30 hours of active battery life, Bluetooth, and it even warms up your feet. And these sensors are connected to a cloud-based coaching engine that works through an app on your phone that will track your day on the mountain, provide instant feedback, and measures 35 metrics such as balance, edging, rotary, and pressure. Plus, it also gives you feedback on your technique, like if your turns are symmetrical or if you're putting too much weight forward on your turn. So this is awesome, in my opinion. I don't ski. I know, Mandy, you ski.
Yes.
So, this sounds like if I was skiing, it'd be perfect.
Oh, it's amazing. If I had something like this when I was actually learning, I wouldn't have had to go through like 2 years of dealing with a coach yelling at me to pizza and to French fry. And if you do ski, you know what that means, right? you don't want your skis ever crossing. So if I could actually have, like a digital thing that could tell me that in maybe a nicer way than my coach did, I mean, that's awesome. And even for people that have skied and then have stopped skiing for a few years and then want to get back into it, but are a little scared of how that's going to go, they're a little nervous of going downhill, that sort of thing. I mean, I feel like this would be a perfect way to get yourself back into that. We don't have pricing, unfortunately, but I mean, I can't imagine it being like exorbitant.
No.
So it's affordable.
Also, we can't undercut how important it is that it warms up your feet.
Yes, that's very important.
Very important. Very good call.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could use that all the time.
Yes. All right. So next up is a nifty little reward type fitness app. So it kind of goes off of the whole like current trend of cryptocurrency. So it's an app called Sweatcoin, and it's raised $5.7 million in funding, and it's an app that awards users 0.95 Sweatcoins, a new digital currency for every 1,000 steps that they take. So over time, users can then earn more Sweatcoins and then exchange them for goods, services, and experiences such as yoga classes and tech gadgets. So apparently since December 2016, Sweatcoin has registered 5 million users. And I have to say, like, that's a super awesome idea.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, let's say, like, you want to do yoga, but, like, you don't do it often enough, but let's say you were developing these sweat coins, you could then be like, I've now walked enough to get this yoga class for free.
I mean, first of all, can we talk about the name Sweatcoin?
It's not great.
I can't tell if I love it or just, like, I hate it. I don't know.
It's both.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We'll let you guys decide. But no, that's really cool. I mean, like, I try to run around our office sometimes just to get my step goals in every day. So if I would actually be rewarded at the end by a yoga class or something once a week, that's kind of cool. I'm down for that.
Next time you do it, you just have to shout out, I've got my sweat coins.
Because that'll go over well.
All right. And lastly, on the new apps, this is the Fitbit launched their new Ionic smartwatch last year, and it's very similar to, I guess, like an Apple Watch, in that it's a proper smartwatch rather than just a fitness wearable. Mandy, I know you've had one for the last 6 months, I guess, at this point.
Yeah,
almost.
Since August, I think. I love it.
Yeah, and so basically, Apple partnered with Nike for a Nike edition of the Apple Watch, and Fitbit is doing the same thing with Adidas. So it's just basically going to have its own branded strap and new fitness apps with training programs. And there's no release date yet, but all rumors point to the first quarter of 2018. So we're now in February, so either this month or March probably. But it's nothing too crazy here, but it's cool to see more partnerships sprout up.
Yeah, good for them. Adidas is really starting to like make a comeback, which is weird. I feel like they died a little bit over the last maybe 10 years, but have now started to really make way in the market again. So good for them.
All right, next up is the concussion update. So we've decided that we talk about concussions every week. We want to talk about concussions every week.
It's our favorite topic.
It's the most important issue in sports.
Yeah.
And no league is doing it right. And so we figured we are going to bring awareness to it every single week.
Yeah. We're going to talk about it till you guys are sick of us.
Yes, and you know what? That's good, because no one should ever be sick of talking about concussions because people are dying.
Yeah, and people still haven't figured it out yet. So Until they do, we will continue talking.
All right. So for the first time on Concussion Update. So first, I'm going to just talk about what concussions are. Just remind everybody. And we will be doing this every week. Every day, a large portion of athletes with a history of repetitive head trauma are battling with a progressive neurodegenerative brain disease called CTE. Symptoms of CTE include blurred vision, dementia, depression, headaches, memory loss, and mood swings. There is no cure, and it only gets worse with time. This is the number one issue in sports, so every week we'll be updating you on what is happening in the world of concussion prevention. So this week there hasn't been a lot, there's no new tech or anything to talk about, but a new article from the Toronto Sun provided some new info on how concussion decisions are made in the NFL. So a common criticism of the NFL's sincerity when it comes to the decision making about taking a player out of a game if they show concussion symptoms is, why hasn't the NFL put that decision firmly into the hands of an independent consultant specifically designed to make these decisions, and take it out of the hands of a team doctor who might be biased? They want to win a game. They're paid to win games. Well, according to the NFL's chief medical doctor, Dr. Alan Sills, that independent consultant already has that power as the decision is made by committee. By that, Sills means that it is a joint consensus decision that's made together between both the team physician staff and independent staff. He compared it to doctors in a hospital who would make the rounds together as a group and then reach a group consensus when talking about patients. And if you thought there would be disagreements between the two staffs, I guess you'd be wrong. According to Sills, in his 4 years working on the sideline, he's only aware of one situation where the unaffiliated doctor and the NFL team physician came to different conclusions based on that evidence. So Sills also answered the criticism of why not put that decision solely into the hands of independent staff if that decision is almost always unanimous. He said that independent doctors may not know the players themselves and their individual baselines. So having a team doctor there with that knowledge is beneficial to both sides. He described it as not scientifically sound to do that, because if the only change is a personality change, then the doctor who has never met that player before cannot discern that change, so therefore they wouldn't take them out of the game because they wouldn't know that they're acting differently. So Mandy, what stands out for you here based on this kind of reveal?
I mean, I do buy into what he's saying at that last bit there about how you need to have the team doctor there as well as an independent consultant, because you're right, everyone has a different baseline. Some people are just explicitly weird. Some people are explicitly quiet. And when they get hit, that might be amplified or that might be changed completely. You don't really know how individual players will react to concussions. So, I mean, I do think that's a really good idea. The fact that this has been happening for a while kind of confuses me because I don't think it's helped anything. Mm-hmm. You know, like I feel like Concussion Protocol has not improved. Well, okay, it has improved in the NFL, but not like significantly enough that we should know this or not know this.
See, the problem is that when you still have moments like, you look at most recently at the NFL playoffs, Cam Newton. He got a concussion in that first wild card game, and he was not pulled. He was not taken out of it, and that means both of them, both like the independent consultant and the team doctor, said that he was fine. So at which case it's like, what? Why did they say that's fine?
Although I don't even think Cam Newton came off the field, though. Like, didn't he go to the sidelines, but he didn't go to the quiet room, which is why it was so controversial, because the NFL changed the rules, like, literally 2 weeks before that game, saying that they have to go to the quiet room, they have to go to the locker room and at least, like, get tested out for a couple minutes. And that didn't happen. So, I mean, that might be a whole different situation, but it brings up the point, how much power does a player have over, or not necessarily over the doctors and the consultants, but in comparison to them?
Or like a coach. How much does the coach have to be like, we need, like, or like if because the players are always been like, fight through the pain, the pain. Like, we want to win a championship. Who cares if I, commit suicide when I'm 50?
Yeah, that's always been a hockey player and football player type of mentality, right? Like, you play through the pain.
Yeah, so that it brings up the whole thing too, because you also look at Tom Savage, Houston Texans quarterback, he was shaking on the field. Yeah, like he was knocked out, and he was allowed to keep playing. So what power do these people really have? I will say this though, at least the NFL is talking about it. The fact I didn't know they had a chief medical doctor.
I mean, who did?
So like the fact that this chief medical doctor was available for a call to like just talk to press and talk to media about concussions in the NFL. That's, you know what, good on the NFL for
and
at least
to the Toronto Sun too.
Yeah, so it's good for the fact that they're at least acknowledging this sort of thing. The problem is, hey, you can acknowledge it all you want. No fixes yet.
Yeah. I would really like to know more just about who gets the final say. Because, I mean, like, we'd assume it's the doctors or this committee of consultants, but, I mean, very clearly that's not the case.
Yeah. So I guess, like we said, every week we'll be back for more updates. So
you betcha.
Hopefully we'll answer this soon. I guess more realistically, probably not, but we will keep reminding you about it every week.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So now we're going to move on to our discussion. And so with the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea, starting on February 9th, we have a great roundup of all the cool tech that'll be used throughout the 3-week tournament. This is going to be the most high-tech, immersive Olympics we've ever seen. So, I mean, I think at the end of this, we're all just going to ask whether it's worth it. So as we mentioned in our last episode, Intel is producing what it's calling the largest virtual reality event ever with its official broadcast partners by pledging more than 50 hours of live VR programming for events like downhill skiing, figure skating, and hockey. This is the first time ever any of the Winter Olympics will be available in VR, and there will also be non-event coverage as well, like tours of Olympic venues and of scenic areas in South Korea. And when it comes to the actual sports themselves, most of us know how games like hockey or figure skating work, but maybe less about skeleton or biathlon or even ski jumping. So to help with this, the Olympic official timekeeper Omega is also debuting new technologies to enhance viewers' understanding of what goes into some of these more complex sports. So for ski jumping, for example, Omega will position a number of different antennas throughout the course that will receive data like speed from transmitters attached to athletes, so that Omega can capture the real-time data and display that information on TV broadcasts. They'll also be able to break down and analyze each frame, and can even overlay different jumps onto others for more precise comparisons of technique and to show viewers where athletes may have won or lost time. And for sports like snowboarding, freestyle, and halfpipe, Omega will also be able to calculate each athlete's highest jump, their average jump height in general, as well as the number of rotations. And then when you look at the athletes themselves, we talked last episode again about how Samsung is outfitting a high-tech speed skating suit to some of the Dutch short-track speed skaters, and Team Canada is using SAS analytics to perfect their times in bobsleigh and the luge events. Now it's come out that the USA ski team apparently trained using VR tech from Striver, which also provides VR training programs for the NFL players and referees, to prepare for real-world conditions without actually being in South Korea. This is not to mention that the US team has super cool high-tech uniforms that uses conductive inks and battery packs on the interior of their opening and closing ceremony jackets to keep athletes warm. So, my question to you, Alex, and I guess everyone listening, is whether all of this is worth it. We're fully immersed in the tech scene, and a lot of these new features are really cool to us, but is there a point to all of it? Like, will people actually be able to appreciate all of this new VR coverage, all of the new data and information that's available at their fingertips? You could even really say that this is the question of the decade, because we're slowly seeing more tech added to sports all the time. And you can look at some of the reactions to things like video replay and robot umps. But so talking about the Olympics specifically, like, do you care?
My whole thing is I wonder what it's going to sell for VR, because we have a Google Daydream here in the office. I wouldn't necessarily go out and purchase my own Google Daydream for this, but the fact that we have one, I can't wait to use it. That's going to be cool. Like, I'm sure both of us will use it. We will report back on whether or not we liked it or not. So that's an interesting part for the VR aspect. Is anyone going to actually go out and buy a VR headset to access this, or is that only going to grow with the Olympics? Because the Olympics is every 2 years, and within those 2 years, there's going to be other reasons to buy a VR headset, and this is just a cool add-on. As for the more stats, I think it's just going to be like any other sport. Like, all of these stats in the Olympics, honestly, perfect for stats.
Yeah.
Because it's all about shorter, faster times, milliseconds, races, perfect for stats. So I think that's going to work really well. So as for the equipment, still really cool too, and it's always going to be controversial. Yeah. You look back at the 2008 Olympic not every team actually, for Olympic swimming. Yeah. Every team was using these enhanced swimsuits. Controversy right there. Created so many world-breaking type things, and so I guess we'll see. I think it's going to be worth it. I think it's going to be fun. We'll see actually how it pans out, though. Yeah,
because I'm a very Olympic-oriented person, I look forward to the Winter Olympics every year, and to an extent the Summer Olympics too, although, Canada is never the greatest in them, so a little bit less exciting to me than the Winter Olympics. So, talking about virtual reality, I might actually go buy a Daydream device, just so I can watch some of this stuff, because I'm just so excited to see, the vantage point of the back of a snowboard in the half-pipe competition or something. That's very exciting to me. And I think you're right about the athletes. We're gonna see a lot of controversy around this, I think, and how they train and how they prepare and whether it's fair, right? Because you can compare even the resources of Canada to the US, or the resources of the US to Kazakhstan. There's gonna be a huge divide, and I think that these technologies and how expensive they are will further increase that divide between some of the haves and the have-not countries.
Yeah, that'll be interesting too, though, because there's already a gap there. So, and there's already no kind of rules or systems in place to prevent that.
True.
So I'm not sure if I guess they'd have to introduce new types of things.
They would have to start caring.
But that would, yeah. And I don't know if the International Olympic Committee has ever...
Don't think they've ever actually cared.
So, especially when that means loss of potential revenue, because half of these tech pieces are, sponsors. So,
but couldn't that just get worse over time, though? If Kazakhstan, which I'm very sorry to any of our Kazakhstan listeners that I'm picking on you, but if they just can't afford technology 10 years down the road and decide not to compete in the Olympics, don't they have to do something?
Problem is that all the big countries that are giving them sponsorship money always will. They're always going to be able to afford it. China, the U.S., European countries, Russia, they're always going to be able to afford it.
Money talks, man.
Money talks.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode. Please give us a rating or a comment, as usual, on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever else you listen to our podcast. You can also follow us. I'm at Mandy V. Kovacs. Alex is at Alex T. Radu. Or our Tech and Sports Twitter account is ITV Tech and Sports. Thanks for listening.